Hi guys, I'm Chantal with Growing Up Without Borders. If you are brand new to our channel, welcome. We are a traveling family and we travel around the world making really cool YouTube videos for you guys to enjoy. And today we're doing something a little bit different. I've connected with a young family over in Peru who are stranded. Similar to our situation, we are right now currently in the country of New Zealand in Queenstown with a beautiful view of the mountains that are a bit covered over right now, but we're connecting with them just to share their story and see what they're going through during these crazy times with the whole coronavirus. So without further ado, let's see if we can connect to Jesse and his family. So nice to meet you, Jesse.
You as well.
Crazy
You as
times
well.
for everyone, right?
Nuts. So you're stuck down in New Zealand right now?
We are stranded in New Zealand, and you're still in Peru right now, right?
Yep. Yeah, we're in Lima. We did get our first contact from the embassy. Someone actually called us, but we haven't gotten any information about a flight yet.
Oh wow. Has it been hard to get, flights or people in contact and like get in touch with anybody?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the embassy when everything went down, um, we were out on Sunday night and we had like a big dinner with the family, went out, had some drinks and whatnot, came home, went to sleep. And then I woke up, got ready, hopped on a conference call around 8:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a text message from my friend at American Airlines that, basically said all the flights home were full and that I needed to get a flight right away. And I had no idea what was going on. So
You didn't know?
kind of
You didn't at this point, so wait, if we back up your story, when did you guys go to Peru?
So we landed on got in, I want to say maybe 8 or 9 p.m. And when we got to the airport, it was absolutely packed. I mean, there were tons of people walking around outside, lots and lots of drivers waiting to pick people up. We had like the whole parking lot at the airport was like 100% full, tons and tons of traffic. On the way over here to Miraflores, the roads were packed. There were like vendors wandering the streets selling things. And then we got to our Airbnb, went to sleep for the night, woke up the next day, like went out to a cafe, had some breakfast. And again, like the cafe was totally full, explored the city, like didn't see anybody around town with face masks on or anything like that. Really, like no signs of trouble.
Oh my gosh. So I think there's a little bit of a glitch when you said the date. So what date was this?
So initially we landed on the 13th,
13th
which was Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so
then
you had no idea also about how serious the whole coronavirus was at this point, or did you somewhat know, or you just kind of?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, we realized that the coronavirus obviously was pretty bad in China and certainly pretty bad in Europe. And around that time, Trump had announced that he would be, restricting passengers from Europe.
Okay. Yeah.
So that really only American citizens would be allowed in.
Right.
And, and we certainly had it in the back of our mind that something like that could happen. There could be a possibility we might have to cut our trip short, find an earlier flight out or something like that. But we checked the embassy website for the U.S. Embassy in Peru, and the travel alert was listed as a level 2.
It's like everything escalated quite rapidly around the world. I find that even here, we knew we were going to get stuck at one point, in our minds. We're like, okay, well, it's okay. At least we're here. Because at this time when we first started with all these alerts and such, was already back in January. At that point, we were in Sri Lanka and we were pivoting whether we go to India or where do we go? And we're like, okay, let's hop over to Thailand. And ultimately we wanted to get to New Zealand. Right. But yeah, so it was the same thing, but it escalated much faster than we had expected and anticipated. So
yeah, not only over here, not only was the escalation extremely rapid, but also the response. We, having learned about it around 8 o'clock, we ended up with basically 16 hours notice before the borders were closed. Wow. And unlike most border closures where they'll restrict people from coming in, but allow people to go out for several days or even indefinitely, they were not letting people go in or out, which was a huge surprise. And there's, I think right now, maybe 4,000 Americans left in Peru.
Wow,
would like
that's quite a
to
lot. That's crazy. Were you guys already in a Airbnb settled at this point?
Yeah, so we were in an Airbnb. Our initial Airbnb was a bit smaller, didn't have a full kitchen, didn't have a washer and dryer.
Oh, wow.
And when we found out the borders would be closed, we looked and found the one that we're currently in, and ended up booking it for I think an additional 9 or 10 days or something so far.
Wow. Wow. So, and then who's all with you right now? So you've got your wife, your mom,
Yeah, I've got my wife, I've got my mother, and I've got my 2 children.
and how old
They're
are they?
12-year-old daughter. I have a 12-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son.
Oh, okay. Wow. So how's the 12-year-old taking all of this?
She doesn't even notice really. Like she's a huge homebody anyways. So the idea that she gets to sit around and she's been drawing on her iPad and reading books and things like that.
Sure.
Yeah, it's not even a thing for her.
Kids are receptive.
And yeah, and then with the 6-year-old, he's been doing his virtual schoolwork, and then he's also been playing some games on iPad and whatnot.
Okay. And you guys are from Tampa? Are you? No, or where are you from?
Yeah. Yeah, we're from Tampa, and my mom lives in Venice, which is about an hour south.
Sure.
And she's initially from Oshawa,
Oh, wow.
outside of Toronto.
Yeah, cool. I didn't realize that. So you've got roots in Canada and US, and that's very cool.
Yeah,
And do you guys homeschool anyway to begin with?
we don't, but Hillsborough County has actually stopped having in-person classes, and
Yeah.
they've gone to a virtual school format. So that's been somewhat of a blessing because it gives the kids something to do for the first hour or two of the day.
Yeah, sure.
And then and then
It's forced everyone into homeschooling, which is great because I think a lot of people who've wanted to test the waters for a long time are all of a sudden like, here you go. Good luck. But geez, so what's it looking like for you guys then?
Yeah,
Are you guys going to stay? Are you going to get out of there, or do you not know yet?
Well, so hopefully we're going to get out in the next few days.
Okay.
And we don't have anything confirmed yet, but with the uncertainty, we really just want to take the first opportunity to get home.
Mm-hmm.
The president of Peru announced yesterday that they were extending the quarantine for an additional 13 days. And there's a bunch of rumors that they might do another 15 or another 30 even after that.
Wow. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, being quarantined away from home is somewhat rough. And then my wife back home owns a bakery, and being away from the bakery is kind of hard because she's actually had to transition her business model from like an in-person bakery to only doing deliveries.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, super stressful on her side.
Everything's changing. I feel that we have an advantage over a lot of people because we're used to traveling. We're used to being in somewhat uncomfortable situations, not knowing where we're going to sleep the next night and such. So for us, our anxiety level, if you will, or our stress level, it's already there and we're already used to that. And the kids are used to it. So, but for a lot of people who are now switching their business models, switching their whole school system, switching everything, not knowing the uncertainty of can we stay longer or what have you. Even in our case, I mean, we came in to where we're staying just before they announced the lockdown of 4 weeks. And we had booked our place until April 1st. And then we were going to head towards the North Island. And so all of a sudden we didn't know, could we stay even longer than the April 1st? Could we even move? And then came the alert on the phone that said, where you sleep tonight, you must stay for the next 4 weeks. And we were like, oh my gosh,
Oh,
what
wow.
are we going to do? It's pretty wild. So, I mean, for you guys, what a stressful event to go through, right? It's just challenging.
Yeah.
And have you
had
a bit of anxiety through it all, or have you been able to remain somewhat calm?
There's definitely a lot of anxiety, and being stuck inside has contributed to that as well. The way that the quarantine set up here, only one person can leave at a time, and only to go directly to the grocery store and back, or directly to the pharmacy and back. So we really don't have any opportunity to get some alone time or get away from one another. And that's definitely weighed pretty heavily on the stress. And we've in our group, we've got various people that deal with stress better or worse.
Okay.
So
Jeez. Oh my gosh, it's just nuts. So there's light at the end of the tunnel though for everyone.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I'm hoping that we manage to get out here in the next few days. They did they did reach out today and said that they wanted to try to get us on a flight in the next few days, but still nothing confirmed.
Nothing
And
confirmed.
on my side, thankfully, I already work fully remote,
Hmm.
and I had planned for this to be a trip where I worked part time.
Okay.
So I brought all my gear with me and whatnot. I've been able to continue working, and then on top of that, having my laptop with me and whatnot. I've actually been in a better position. Doing things like registering for STEP didn't really work on the mobile devices, so I helped a bunch of people register. Uh, with the medications, most of the medications in Peru are different than the medications that we have in the U.S.
Right.
They might be the same drug, but like different names or different formulations and whatnot. So I was able to pull this giant list of all the drugs that Peru has available and then cross-reference those to find replacement medication for my family and then for some others. And I couldn't even imagine the extra stress that I would have faced if we just had our mobiles.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, can you imagine? That would be horrible. There's a couple, so in New Zealand, people do these walks where they walk through the woods and they stay in huts and they're really fully isolated from the world. They have no internet, no nothing. And one couple, they came literally out of the woods and didn't realize there was even this whole coronavirus. And all they had was their cell
Ooh.
phones to be able to try and find flights, book hotel, like all of that, right? So it's just wild. But I have a question for you. If you were to get stranded anywhere in the world, where would you choose to get stranded?
Oh, I don't know. That's a really hard one. If the bars and restaurants were open here, I certainly wouldn't have been averse to here.
Okay, I mean,
Uh,
stranded with no bars, no restaurants, like in quarantine, where would you choose?
oh, somewhere in quarantine. Honestly, so I grew up on a cattle ranch in Venice, and I probably would rather be there. Yeah, it's a big space. You could hang out
Just be able
and
to go out
barbecue.
and be with the cattle and
Yeah,
that's
yeah, just
unreal.
hang out, drink some beers, shoot some guns,
Yeah,
hang out, like have some bonfires, grill out.
that sounds good.
Yeah, I think that would be good. Yeah, I think outside of quarantine, Lima seems like a pretty cool place, and certainly anywhere in Japan, I'd be stoked to be.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We were having that conversation with the family. We were saying, where would you want to be? Like, if you could be anywhere, right? But I'm happy where I am. We've got a cool view. We've got a fireplace to keep us warm.
Oh, nice.
We have internet. I mean, what more can I ask for, right? No.
Oh, I know, right? Like, yeah, I'm sitting here thinking about being stranded in a foreign country, and I've got Netflix and I've got like access to groceries and was able to pick up some pisco and some whiskey. Like,
Well,
it's not
here's
all
another
bad, right?
question. Do you guys speak Spanish?
Not well. And that actually led to some tension. So the first Airbnb we were at, the doorman, one day when we returned, he was like, "Hey, I'm leaving. I'm not coming back." And he showed us the buzzer under the door, and he's like, "You can press this buzzer to get out." So the next day I went to leave, and he had actually deadbolted the door. So we
Oh
had
my
we had no way to
gosh,
get
why would
out.
he do that?
I have no idea. So we ended up going, lifted up like a garage door and slid underneath, which is fine to get like somebody in and out to get groceries. But when we had to transition from one Airbnb to the other, if we left that one, we'd never be able to get back in. So I walked from the first one to the second one by myself so I could get here, make sure that there was a doorman here, make sure we could get in and gain access, make sure it was, that it was as pictured before we
Right.
decided to stay here for a few weeks.
Oh my
And
gosh, that's crazy.
I stopped by 12 separate police officers, and each one demanded to see my passport, demanded to see like where I was going. And one of them had actually started to get like fairly tense. Thankfully I had somebody locally that I was able to FaceTime, and she talked to the officer for me and convinced them to let me go.
That's
But
wild.
yeah, it was pretty yeah, it was pretty nerve wracking.
Yeah, no doubt. Because what if you ended up in a situation where all of a sudden he wanted to be a jerk and was like, you can't go back, and now you're stuck, not able to be with your family, and in no man's land or whatever, and then
Oh
if you
yeah.
can't understand the language, what do you do, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. And
scary.
they basically like they were threatening. They said that if you were out walking, you would be arrested and you would be held for 24 hours and fined.
Yeah.
And I think the fine was somewhere like maybe like 6,500 soles.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I
so yeah,
know our prime minister in Canada yesterday just announced, if you go out, you're going to be fined and risk jail time. So it's like they're
yeah,
taking this very seriously. Like,
with his new goatee too.
yeah,
He had
did you
the
see that?
quarantine beard.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh, he's looking good with his beard and his goatee growing. That was so funny. I thought that was hilarious too. Well, why not?
He should have thrown on a flannel. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
I think that would have really sold the rugged quarantine look.
Yeah. So crazy. So there's light at the end of the tunnel. You guys will get home, and all this too shall pass. But now the U.S., I'm concerned because I see a lot of people back on Miami Beach, just the young, the youth, they're just not giving a rip, and they're like, it's not going to affect us. It's no big deal, and they just kind of seem a bit invincible or whatever, right? So what are your thoughts with that? Because
Oh,
I know that, for
yeah,
example, I was watching as well, like Switzerland, they're saying they're about 10 days behind what Italy's went through. So they're really preparing. They're redoing their whole hospital setups, layouts, and everything to accept all the new influx of patients that are going to be coming in. But I'm not sure that the US is, or maybe they are now, but I feel like the last few days, they haven't been taking it as serious as they should be.
Yeah, I think the U.S. The hospital systems, healthcare providers, and whatnot are taking it very seriously. The U.S. population in general, I don't think has yet, and we definitely feel like we're putting ourselves at risk going back to the U.S. Before there was a lockdown in Peru, we actually even considered maybe just voluntarily staying an additional week or two because of how bad it was in the U.S. And I think if the quarantine hadn't gotten extended and we knew that we'd be able to wander about and whatnot, knew that we'd be able to get out when we wanted to get out, but the uncertainty around when the borders would be reopened and when we might have another chance to get out is such that we're willing to take that risk. But it certainly is a much bigger risk. I mean, from the standpoint of contracting COVID, we're much safer here. Their cases have been extremely minimal. I think in Florida, they're adding several hundred cases a day. And Miami is a particularly bad hotspot. So our expectation is that we will be in more danger in the U.S. and very likely we're going to face another 14 to 30 days of quarantine and social distancing over there.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that was the same question we had if we go back, because our home right now is in Switzerland, and
What part of Switzerland?
Do you know Lausanne, kind of the Lake Geneva area? Yeah, so
Yep.
we're about 20 minutes from Lausanne towards the French border and towards the Valais. So.
Oh, good deal.
So just to wrap up, if there's a message that you can get across to the world, to those that are maybe coming into the realization of all this coronavirus and everything, or I really wanted to talk to the ones that are like, oh, this is nothing. It's just going to pass, or it's not going to really, it's not a big deal, or, the people that are maybe a little bit, I don't know what the word is, but just not in the realization, what would be the message that you could get across to the world?
Oh, well, I guess the biggest issue for me is that this is maybe the first time in modern history, anyways, that we've faced a crisis that had such a large disconnect between the individual risk and the systemic risk. Quite honestly, like the risk to any healthy individual from contracting COVID is relatively low. I mean, it's certainly much higher than the flu and things like that, but but in real numbers, it's relatively low. But the systemic risk is extremely high. The numbers of people that would contract this that would require hospitalization is such that we could overwhelm the healthcare system, and then you could end up in scenarios where doctors have to make really tough triage choices where they're literally just leaving people into the hallways to die. So so I think that
the whole problem is that whole ability to take the influx of patients, and do we have enough ventilators, and who do you choose? Do you choose the 20-year-old, or do you choose the 80-year-old that's going to get the ventilator? And that's the challenge, or 70-year-old, or
Yeah. So I guess, the core message that I would want to push out is that when framed like that, that people should be focused more on the systemic risk in this case than on the individual risk. I think that any one person that wants to go out and, hang out in a large group and party and whatnot, they're really not placing themselves in huge danger, but they are placing the system, they are placing their neighbors in danger, by extension, placing the economy in danger, and, the safety of everyone.
Right. So it's really a time in history that we have to think not of just ourselves, but think about all of the people around us that we don't even really realize, or it could be not even our family members or close, but the people in the community overall,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I mean, on a personal level, it's very likely that you have some immunocompromised friends. They may be young, otherwise appear healthy, but they could be in a position where the individual risk for them is extremely high.
Right.
Certainly anyone who, still has their grandparents, they're placing them at great risk. I think that may have been one of the reasons that, that Italy was hit so hard, because they do still have very strong family ties, large family gatherings where they have multi-generational households and frequent multi-generational get-togethers. So they've got kind of the perfect storm of social factors to spread this and cause great harm to a large number of people. So
Yeah, they sure do. And there's a lot more touching, feely. I find that in certain cultures, you don't touch and feel so much, and there's less kissing going on. And just not only that, but the proximity of where everyone lives. So in Europe in general, people live in closer, tight knit places. Here in New Zealand, I could talk to a neighbor and not even come in contact with her for days, right? And same with Florida. We lived there for several years, and you get in your car, you go, you come back, and you literally don't even see your neighbors or really talk or touch anybody. But in Europe, I mean, you're living in small apartments, you're touching the railings, the next person comes along, and elevator buttons and all of that, right? So it's a lot higher risk of spread. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Well, hey, Jesse, thank you so much for taking the call with us today, sharing some of your story. I hope you guys get back home safely to the United States, and that you guys can carry on and get through this crazy time.
Oh, good deal. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.